Hey, girlfriend, how are you today? I'm here with Marlene. Okay, Marlene, I just totally blanked on your last name.
Hewitt. It's
Hewitt.
French.
Oh my
Hewitt.
goodness. I have been traveling and I was with my granddaughter who just turned 3 and we went to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. And so my head is, I think, still in California at Disneyland and just coming back and just jumping back into things. But ladies, we're here sharing stories. Stories are so important. It's the way we connect as women. It's not the circumstances so much. It's those moments that we get through things, that we tap into that resilience, we tap into those moments where we had to overcome. And today I'm just privileged to have Marlene here and to share her story. And before we get started, Marlene, and before I have you introduce yourself, there was a little quote that you had in your story, and it said, bravery isn't about certainty. It's about moving forward without it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how many moments in my life have there been those uncertainty? And I love planning. I like things, I like to know my lane that I need to operate in. And I've had so many things out of my control that created uncertainty. And I'm so glad that that quote was there because I think it's something that so many women are going to be able to relate to. So welcome, and we'll get into your story. But Marlene, first say hello to the ladies and tell us a little bit about you and where you're coming from.
Well, hello. My name is Marlene Hughett, and it is a privilege to be here because I know there are a lot of people out there, women in particular, that tune in. And for me, I am a mom, a wife, a believer. I am a brain tumor survivor, and I know we'll get into that, which really is my story of resilience, recovery, and a whole lot of uncertainty. I have the privilege of being able to help other people with their health, whether it is a headache or the extremity of a brain tumor. It really is about finding strength and your best health and your best you. And I get the privilege of being able to walk through that with people. I have one son who now just got married. So now I have a daughter-in-law. So
Oh, how
I'm so
wonderful.
privileged to have these two kids, a supportive husband, and just honestly, the ability to live fully after so much of life already happening.
Yeah, we all have so many stories, but today we're going to concentrate on one of your stories. And like you said, it's a brain tumor. And so tell us kind of what the circumstance was and how that came about.
So I had started taking better care of myself, and one of those things was working out. And I started to have a little flickering. And when I say little, it was just a little tiny flicker of my foot, just about 30 seconds to 2 minutes in the middle of the night, randomly. When I say random, it was like 6 times in a 9-month period. And it happened during a time when I was either just got done working out, I was on vacation doing a lot of walking, maybe I was having a few cocktails, so maybe I was dehydrated. Those are the things that I kind of chalked it up to. I happened to be with a couple of really good friends that noticed maybe a pattern to them and said, you know what, you need to get that checked out. So 2024 January, that was their advice. And I thought, all right, I'll just take care of it. It's no big deal. Went in, and the story really is kind of funny in that I went to my gynecologist to say, hey, I know this isn't your space,
Yeah.
but my foot kind of does this weird thing. And I had the right of mind in the middle of one of those episodes at night to record it. And so I shared that with my doctor and I said, I just need your help getting to a neurologist. My friends are pushing it and I want to just push it behind us. So quickly, I had in 5 weeks met a neurologist, had several tests. Now, mind you, at this point, brain tumor never came up as a possibility. My sister has MS, so that was one of the things we wanted to eliminate, although it was a very small 1% of being the same connection for my episodes. Halfway through, we realized I was having what they call focal awareness seizures. You're fully awake, it is not painful, and it focuses on one area of your body. In this case, it was my foot doing the flickering. And so the neuro said, you know what? We're just going to give you medication. and we'll just move on. Do you even want to have the rest of the test done? And I thought, well, first of all, I don't want to go on medication. That's not my protocol. Everything is all natural and holistic for me. So I was like hesitant, but I met him halfway. It's not something I had known about. So I said, let's go ahead and do it until we figure out all the rest. I do want to eliminate MS, which an MRI would have done that. The very last test out of 5 was an MRI. I went in. I'd had a couple before for different things. It wasn't any big deal. I went in, I came out. By the time I was dressed and sitting in the lobby, for whatever reason, they asked me to sit there. They said, you need to call your neuro. Ooh, gets me a little, I'm going right back to that place. So you need to call your neuro. And I did. And he said, I don't even have those results. You must still be there. I was like, yep, I'm still in the lobby. So I drove home, and turns out he called me and said, you have 20 minutes. You have a brain tumor that is larger than a golf ball, and it has tentacles like an octopus, and it's wrapped around your speech and your motor skills. And it is inflamed so much that we're concerned that it's taken over half your brain.
Oh my God. So
yes, go ahead. React.
I know. My heart is just reaching out. Like, I mean, that must have been a shock.
It was, because like I said, we never even used the words brain tumor in any conversation. Neither did I ask, neither did he think, because we thought that it was just these seizures for whatever reason. And so took a deep breath, reached out to a community. For me, that's my business. I work for Plexus and get to help people with their health. So it was 3 years prior to that I had really focused on my health. Thank goodness, because it was coming into play. And first, what came into play was leaning into these women that I didn't really want. And I thought I had enough friends, but God had a different plan and threw me into this community. And so got prayed up with these women, took a deep breath, packed a bag, which I'm a 6 on the Enneagram scale, if anyone knows what that is. And I know, Karen, you and I have talked about being prepared. There was no preparing. There was no research. There was no worst case scenarios. There just was what and how. And so I threw what I thought I needed in my bag. And we went to the hospital. And the very next day, I was sped up from an afternoon surgery to the morning surgery 3 hours later, not knowing whether they could get it all or if I would speak or walk again. Yeah.
So let's pause here. I mean, when it happens that quickly, you don't even have time to process. You're just reacting because there's so much happening, and you're just dealing with the moment. That just, I mean, what was it? Full of emotion, or were you just kind of just in survival? In that.
Well, it's interesting that you say emotion, because prior to surgery, there was a way that I would manage that, which was I controlled that. I was really good at it too. Yeah. At least in my eyes, I was, right?
Yeah.
And so I just locked that all in there where it was uptight, and really just kind of sat back and was just an observer, which sounds very strange, being it's your life, it's your brain, and it's happening to you. But because of the being stunned by the news, I just kind of sat back and chose to take it all in. Was there fear? I think for a few minutes, as I got to see my husband just before surgery, and was like, oh boy, here we go, right? But I also knew that I was taken care of, again, by those prayers, by my friends, by the right doctors, and my own personal faith of just knowing it's going to work out. It has to this point, it's going to work out. And I put my brave big girl pants on and sat there and just kind of let things roll out, and thought I will take it as it comes, because that's how this came. It just came.
It did. Oh my gosh. Just, I'm wondering if any other women have ever been in that situation. And I love when you said, you kind of stood back and just had to be the observer. I've been in situations where we have to almost disconnect and let it happen. And that's what I'm hearing from you, that you just, just kind of, you already knew, you, like you said, you were prayed up for, you had these girlfriends surrounded you, and you've surrounded yourself with the right people to kind of help walk you through and lift you up and have that faith of getting through with those hard things. So you go into surgery, what was it like afterwards for you? What was the outcome, the healing process, and that emotional healing time?
So what's interesting is that where it had been entangled in my brain was the parietal lobe, which is ironically enough emotion that I thought I could control all the time, right?
Oh,
But also it was wrapped around my speech and my motor skills. And so those were the very things that I was focused on most. And so when I came out and I was asking for things right in the recovery room, that was a great sign to me, the doctors, and my family. Um, I did have some numbness from about mid thigh down to my foot, where I had had multiple seizures prior to surgery. And in recovery, I had about 30 in recovery, just out of response from what had happened in surgery itself.
oh wow.
By the way, surgery, they got most of it. There's still a little piece that is left in the lining of the center lining of my brain, because you can't cut into that. There's way more of a risk in that. So they had to leave that, which leaves me at 35% of it coming back. But just the way I took this one is the way I'm going to have to just take that news too. And so when I left the hospital, I had that deficit in my foot. I can't feel the bottom of my foot now currently. Let's see, this was April 24th of 24. So I'm coming up on 2 years. And I only have a deficit of just at the very bottom of my foot. I can't feel the bottom. So it's kind of a numb feeling. But as you can see, I'm talking just fine. Sometimes it's a little bit slower because there is a trauma to the brain. And as far as the physical aspects, I CrossFit 5 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And CrossFit for me, like, there's different versions of CrossFit, right? Like, you see these power lifters in CrossFit. That's not me. I don't aspire to be that, but I'm powerlifting what I can do in my power, right? And so as long as I keep that, I'm in check. But the emotional piece, honestly, Karen, is the one that has really tripped me up. And that's where I found my resilience. Because the parietal lobe is all about emotion. And when it gets traumatized, the best way I can explain it, and I kind of gave you an insight to pre-surgery, which was I controlled those emotions.
Yes.
I describe it best where they were locked behind a gate, and then there was another wall and another and another. So they were tucked away, and I was as stoic as the best could be. So I could get my business done. I could take care of things. I could be what I needed to be for people. After surgery and that trauma, that gate was completely broken, wide open, swinging when it wanted to, and who knew what was coming and going. So I had completely lost that control. And it was uncomfortable for me, to be honest, because I didn't know how to navigate that after 54 years of doing it the other way. And now all of a sudden I had to learn. I had to come back. I needed to find that strength in a different way. A lot of surgery, some open hands, right? To let God do what he needed to take out and put in and rearrange in me first, and then in my circumstances and surroundings. And 2025 was really that. It was finding that brave every day, because I don't know what the next day will bring. It could come back, and it could come back in a force. But it's also finding the resilience to live fully every single day with an urgency of who knows what tomorrow will bring. Not in a doom and gloom way, but a dig deep kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, when you only have 20 minutes when they tell you what you have to go into surgery. And then, I mean, an emotional response where that actually affects your brain, that is huge. And to have to deal with that and now have a whole different perspective on how you live. But
Oh my gosh. It's a gift. It really is a gift. And that's strange to say, I know.
Yeah. It is. And so I just love how sometimes our struggles and these beautiful gifts come out of it. Not that we want to go through those at all, and we wouldn't wish them upon anyone, but to see those lessons and to be where you are today, to be able to share that gift with other people as well. I know when I met you, there was just a sparkle about you, and you said you said, I have a story. And I'm just like, oh yes, we have these stories of resilience, and your story doesn't really end. Your story is one that continues of resilience, that you have to tap into that. And like you said, how are you going to choose to live today?
And that's the thing is that, one, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story, not because I'm really any different than anyone, right? Like
Right.
we all have that deep down strength, but often we don't tap into that until things are as extreme as a surgery, an illness, a death. But I'm in this world to nudge people to go, okay, but what about today? Maybe that's down the road, but what about today? What
Yeah.
about today with your strength? What about today with the decisions that you're making? What about today on the things that you've disqualified yourself? I just talked about that on my stories today about how we disqualify ourselves for all of these different things. Had I not followed some of those nudgings from my friends, from my insides, I could have a completely different story that is saying, well, I only have this much time left, right? Nope. My story today is today. It's take today and live its fullest, not recklessly, but in a way that you find your strength, your resilience, your best life, your best health, your best relationships. And don't let it pass you by because you just never know.
Oh, we've got a lot of really great little nuggets here. What about today? Yes. What about today? I just recently went and visited my granddaughter, and I had to make sure that I was being present. I kind of asked myself that a little bit. It's like, we have those moments, are we being present in that moment? And it just sounds like at that question about what about today? And I love the way that you put that. So if there's a woman who maybe is going through something similar to your situation, what would you say to her?
Wow. One is keep going.
Mm.
Just keep going for starters. Um, I also would tell her don't try to control it all because the reality is
We can't.
control is an illusion. Right? That's the reality is control
Yeah.
is an illusion. And
Oh,
we need to start, and that's what I get to do every day. And hopefully this will do this for other people too. Believe in the strength that you already have and that it's enough. Today, not when not if I, and not disqualifying yourself today, right? But you have enough strength today for what you're going to go through today. And that's going to build your strength for tomorrow, whatever that brings, and so on and so forth. And I think it's to focus on the strength rather than trying to control things. But that's our human nature, right? And if you're on different scales on the Enneagram, you can't help yourself.
yes. So you said focus on that strength. What does that look like for you? Like in today, what's your strength that you are focusing on in this time frame?
Um, every day I'm focusing on one, just being thankful and grateful. Like there's a lot to be said for gratitude journals, starting your day with gratitude because you have such a different perspective. And for me, it's simple, right? It is, I'm glad to be alive because that couldn't have been the case. But for other people that never go through those kinds of things, and that's most people, right? That can look like in a way of, you know what, today I'm going to be the best mom,
Mm.
right? Today I'm going to be thankful that I am a mom. I'm going to be thankful that I have a family. I'm going to be thankful that I have a job to go to, right? I have opportunity. I start with gratitude, but then I also really focus on my health. And, you know, I took my health for granted for probably 50 something years. It'll be there,
Yeah.
right? And even though I was taking supplements and I was coaching people, It was just on the regimen of doing it. But now I see the end result of that. I did that for 3 years prior to my surgery. And that is a testament to why my body was ready to fight. The prayers helped my spirit to fight. And my mindset was just purely stubbornness that I was going to make it through. And
Yeah.
so I really focus on those strengths. And practically, it is my quiet time. It's feeding my body of the right things, nutritionally, working out. And then honestly, it is surrounding myself with people that are going to
Yeah.
feed that, right? They're not going to hold me back. They're going to feed that. They're
Yeah.
going to want it. It gets contagious both ways, from me and from them. So that's why I love being part of so many different networks. And the network, honestly, if you really want to get down to it, the network of those two women saved my life.
Wow. And there, you were talking about, we started off with bravery isn't certainty. It's moving forward without it. But that controlling, your health, making those decisions, that is a sense of security, a sense of certainty that you do have a choice in how you walk forward in today. And so ladies, would challenge each other, and what's one thing that you can certainly do that will, be healthy today, or to, your mindset, your spirit, or, whatever that looks like for you, maybe going for a walk. So let's talk just as we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. Let's talk what are, how did walking through this, how did this change your perception of yourself?
Identity was last year, right? Finding Marlene again.
Oh,
And it was, you would think surgery and coming right out of that would have been the hardest thing, or even hearing you need brain surgery.
right.
Last year was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Who I thought I was shaken, right? I was a controller. I had it all laid out. I'm the planner, preparer. And now everything was thrown up in the air, and I had no idea if it was going to fall, if it was going to fall in place, what shape it would be in. And that made me very uncomfortable and uneasy with who am I really now? And who do I want to be, which is the gift, right? I got to decide who that was, but I had to discover that in my core. And so I did have a great therapist. I have great support with friends and my husband and my son and now daughter-in-law. And so I found that, and we talked about it, the presence, right? Not always looking for the next thing, just really sitting here and soaking that up.
Right.
That's the living fully, right? With uncertainty, you can still live there fully present in the uncertainty, because you can't control that anyways. But I know that my core has always been there, right? I allowed the outside world to shift that. And having my surgery really brought me back to the anchor of that, because it doesn't change. How we're created doesn't change. It's how we build on it is changing. And I had a clean slate, let's say, to start to rebuild that, because my core and my foundation was the same. And now I just had to rebuild what probably was already there, but it was buried by society and what people say and what I thought I needed to do and how I needed to control. But now I'm freely me.
Right.
And people love that, including me. I love myself this way.
Yeah. And I can see the emotion and all the beauty that comes out of that. Just going back to that foundation of who you are, that says a lot. And, as we, if we had like a little chart and we write down what's our foundation? Who are you at the core? Whether it's your values or however you want to put that. And it's just that beauty, that raw beauty that you can see that you're talking about. And it's like, yeah, this is who I am. And this is where I can stand. And as some of those layers were stripped away from you, it just sounds like that. It's like, it may not be easy to go through all that, but but there's beauty that has come out of it. So as we close out, what would you like to leave the ladies with?
Oh my gosh. have faith and belief in yourself.
Mm.
That's where you need to start, honestly. You are enough. You have enough. You just have to use it, right? And that choice is yours. You choose to use that or you choose to put it on the shelf, but nonetheless, that enough and that strength is there. And I would challenge every single woman to test that every single day. Test your strength. Push
Oh,
yourself further and further so you can find where are my limits. And I think what you'll find is you have no limits when you do that because you're constantly growing and building on the foundation of where you started.
oh wow. Okay, that is great. Test your strengths every day because they are unlimited. And like you said too, you just build upon that day per day of that strength. And doesn't that give you, it's like kind of like your book of proof, I call it, that you can build upon those strengths each day. And if you write it down. So ladies, what if you write down every day how you tested your strength and what that looked like for you? And what was it? And then, start this little journal. Ooh, we may have to add that to our magazine. And we'll put that in some journal prompts or something. So ladies, it's been just a joy to share Marlene's story. Marlene, there's so many little golden nuggets in that. And I just want to thank you for coming and opening your heart to our audience and to the women, because there's someone out there who needs to hear your story. It's so important because even if it's not the same circumstances, I have a feeling there's a lot of little points in there that you touched on. I know for me, there's several, and I'm going to go back and listen to this too and write them down because I love having those little golden nuggets that we can hang on to about testing our strength every day. And oh my gosh, so many things. But thank you for coming and sharing your story, Marlene.
Thank you for the privilege of being able to do that. You talk about stories a lot, and stories are only great when they're spoken and told. If you keep them to yourself,
Yes.
they're not really great stories. So thank you for being able to give many women the opportunity to share those, and I'm just one of them.
Yes. And thank you for joining us today, ladies. We leave you and we hope that you will come and share your story too. Have a great day.